Yo, what's up, guys? It's the Insane Game Freak here to wish you Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, enjoying the time off of work and school and hanging out with the fam. I'm here to bring you my top 5 games of 2016, which really just amounts to my top 5 Nintendo games of 2016. Why is it only Nintendo games, Terrell? Well, it's because that's the only really games I played. That would imply me owning a PlayStation 4. You have a PC you game on. I don't buy a lot of games on my PC. I bought some games, and hey, look, there will be some games in honorable mentions, so woo. Anyways, yeah, let's get into honorable mentions before we get into the list. The list, as I said, top 5 Nintendo games, because every game on the top 5 is Nintendo games. But that doesn't mean the honorable mentions are. First up, Bravely Second. Now, the only reason why this is an honorable mention is partially because I haven't beaten it. I believe I'm in the last area of the game, but I don't like including games that I haven't beaten, because how you call it a top 5 list, that means these are your top 5 favorite games, and yet I haven't beaten the game. To house it in your top 5 doesn't make any fucking sense. It's such a good game, but I couldn't finish it. Next up, Star Fox Zero. The simple answer for this one is that I don't really, I don't mind the game. It's alright, but there's so much wrong with it, and this could have been so much better that it's hard for me to say it's my top 5 game. And then there were just other games I enjoyed more than it. The third game is Siren Kagura Shinobi Versus, and yes, I understand that's a Vita game, and I also understand that game is not 2016, but the PC version is, which is the version I've been playing, which is fun, but it's also very simple and shallow, considering half of the premise. The premise of Siren Kagura, period, is cute girls with a lot of fucking fan servicey animations fight. That's the premise of your series. No matter what game you're playing from Siren Kagura, is going to have at least fan service and anime girls. So, and it's not that the combat's fun. It's just not like God tier, like, oh my god, I must play this all the time kind of fun. But it is fun. So, check that out. And because there's Steam sales going on, you probably can get that game way cheaper than it was when I bought it, because I'm stupid. Anyways, let's get into number 5, shall we? Pokken Tournament. Wow, it's a fighter that isn't Smash Brothers on the Wii U. Woo! I'll be honest with you, this is actually a pretty fun game. I like the combat mechanics. I like the constant switching from dual phase to what is it? Dual phase to, I forget the name of the other phase. I guess it'd be 3D. It's going from 2D to 3D fighting mechanics, and how certain moves change and their properties change depending on what phase you're in. There's a lot, and then the character variation is cool. I think the only thing I don't like about this game is that the fact that when you look at it, the realization is, oh yeah, by the way, it's essentially just a port of an arcade game, which also we don't even have all the DLC for. And the Switch comes out in like 4 months. This game, and it's not even a year old yet. This game came out in March. This game will, ironically enough, this game will be a year old around the time the Switch comes out. And the game barely got supported after launch, except for the patch to kill the Infinites that Shadow Mewtwo had. It's really fun. I just wish there was more of a push for it, and I feel like it was a rush game, and it just had the unfortunate consequence of being a rush game in 2016 on a console that Nintendo obviously was working on transitioning from. So yeah, but it's still fun, and I'm glad it sold as well as it has. Supposedly, it's near 1 million copies sold, which is nuts considering it's a Wii U game in 2016. So yeah. Anywho, let's get into number 4, shall we? Tokyo Mirage Sessions. We've been waiting for this game since 2013. And people stopped caring about this game when this original trailer was shown. Not the first trailer in 2013, but the new trailer that reminded people that, oh yeah, this isn't dead yet. Man, people were so salty on this game. It's not even a fucking joke. And it's primarily because it went from a game that's supposed to be about Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem to a Persona-like game with Fire Emblem mechanics. But to me, to me that didn't make the game bad, and it's really fucking fun. I like the mechanics. I like the variations in characters. The idol concept is fine. It became more interesting as you go through because they tried to show the ins and outs of the industry, not only through like just one particular avenue, like the J-pop idol singers that you see all the time, but you also got the whole kawaii. You know, each character kind of represented a different part of it. How Toma's more of the common writer, actor sort of guy. Now, granted, I think most of them still hang in that same J-pop. Oh, I'm an idol. Which is kind of where Tsubasa and Kiria and I guess to a lesser extent Eleanor is in, but they all had their own little quirks and differences, and their side stories were fun. The combat was fun. The story's fine. I think the only thing about this game that kind of suffers is the fact that it's relatively slow paced, and it kind of in the dungeon design is kind of a pain in the ass because it requires a lot of backtracking, so the game feels longer in comparison. It's still fun as fuck. It's just really slow paced, which kind of hurts it a little bit. But I still think it was fun, and I would like to see a sequel. I know it didn't sell well, but you know, I think it deserves a sequel. Damn it! Also because I think a lot of people were just burned. They're like, man, I wanted a Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem game, and you gave me some weeaboo shit. People need to be more open-minded, but at the end of the day, I still think it was a good game, and if you're willing to look past it, you will find a kick-ass RPG here. And it also ties you over until Persona 5 comes out, since it got delayed again! Number 3. Now, technically, I don't get my physical release of this until Tuesday, so I don't really have anything I can physically show you. But these top 3 were kind of hard because I couldn't figure out. It took me a minute to realize which one deserved to be 3, 2, and 1, and I think I narrowed it down. So number 3 is Shantae Half Genie Hero. A lot of people are probably wondering, well, you've been waiting on this game for like 2 or 3 years. I'm surprised it's only your number 3. It's my number 3 because as much as I enjoy the game, and I fucking enjoy the game, I've played the game at this point at least 2.5 times, going into 3 times, and I'm talking about like playthroughs, especially because I got to stream one of them relatively soon, which I probably will do within the next few weeks or so. Shantae Hajime Hero is a really fun game. It has a lot of changes to it, but it feels like a natural progression from Risky's Revenge. And I already talked about this game ad nauseum on a review, so I'm not going to go into all that detail, but I will say this: the main thing that keeps this thing from being my number 1 is because the game doesn't technically feel like it's done. And we know it's not done because we saw the Kickstarter, we saw that there are things that we still need to get in terms of modes. This game is more of a long haul game, so I will probably come to enjoy this game more and more as time goes on and more stuff is released, but as of right now, it's just fine for me, and I enjoy it. It's good. Hey, look, it's better than Mighty Number 9, so it makes my old video about that comparison valid, and that's all I could ever hope for. Shantae, you're my number 3, you bae. Now, number 2 and number 1. This was fucking hard because if you know me well enough, and especially if you've been watching the Juices Loose podcast, you have an idea of what the 2 games are. But the question is, which is in what position? Now, this was hard because I like these games a lot. And considering the previous entry for one of these franchises, I fucking absolutely fell in love with, it makes you question, why is it number 2? And that game is Fire Emblem Fates. This game is greatness. It's so fucking good. It's so good. They fixed all the broken and fucking faulty shit in Awakening. Kept all the parts of Awakening I enjoyed. There are some decent amount of missteps, and I understand. And I think the biggest problem with this game is that, unlike Awakening that I replayed like 3 or 4 times, the biggest issue with this game is that they slam you with 3 fucking storylines, and then we're like, Oh, you love the game, right? Like, by the time you play 3, you had to be on a Fire Emblem drought to be sitting there going, man, I really, really, really need more Fire Emblem. And then on top of that, considering this came out in June, it was like most people were kind of Fire Emblem out at this point, and I think that's probably the biggest issue. Is that as much as I enjoyed the games, they just kind of burnt me out on Fire Emblem for a while. Which is why I'm hoping to God they don't do anything stupid like make another fucking game in like a year or so. Because there are just certain, especially with this game. This game is a massive undertaking. I feel like this game in itself could hold people over for like another 4 years, like 4 or 5 years. But that's how much Fire Emblem that's in here, and it's so good. I like the characters. I mean, I have my issues with it, but overall, I think the two things that stop this from being my number one is the overload of Fire Emblem, and the stories are pretty shit. The stories, I can get some level of enjoyment probably out of Revelations and maybe the DLC. Conquest to a lesser extent. Birthright is just kind of boring, if anything. But it's a game. It's enjoyable. It's still Fire Emblem at its core, and it's still fucking addictive, which is why it's my number 2. So that brings up the question: what is my number 1? It's kind of sad that like all my like my fucking top 2 games are fucking 3DS titles, but I had to do it. This game, come on. It's the 20th anniversary of Pokemon, and I feel like these are the greatest representations of the franchise we've had. This is so fucking good. I'm currently on my second playthrough with this shit. It's a true representation of the greatness of Pokemon. I don't even want to go into it that much, but it's so that for those who don't know, Pokemon I would probably say is my favorite gaming franchise, period. And as some of you have seen my videos when Gen 6 came out, I wasn't the biggest fan of Gen 6. I don't hate Gen 6, but Gen 6 just felt very lazy. It felt like a transition generation. Like, we need to get into 3D, but we're not 100% sure if we can do it right, so we'll just make Gen 6 as a transition game. And although there are aspects of Gen 6 that are great, it just doesn't hit the same highs for me. But Gen 7 felt like a breath of fresh air in more ways than one. Revamping how HMs work, revamping the Pokemon structure for the most part. And even though it's that weird, it's familiar, but it's still different. And I couldn't, and just playing through Sun and Moon, it was just a fucking joy. I love how it reminds me of one of my favorite generations, Gen 5, a lot. It made me care about the side characters again, the gym leaders or the kahunas or the trial captains, even just NPC characters like fucking Lily and Gladion and Hapu is the name of one of the kahunas. I'm being stupid. The Alolan Pokemon were cool to get refresh updates for Pokemon that we've known for years. It felt like a love letter to Pokemon fans, and as someone who's played the game since the 90s, that's all I fucking wanted. I wanted a true representation of Pokemon. I'm glad that Gen 6 was not wasted effort. They obviously used it as a transition gen to figure out what they wanted to do, and Gen 7 delivered on all fronts. And that's why it's my favorite game of 2016. It's a game that I love. It embodies everything I love about the franchise. I still need more time to say if it's my absolute favorite game, but it's probably top 3 at this point. It's such a fun fucking game. And I hope Pokemon continues to grow and prosper as it always has. I don't want to get this into a Pokemon retrospective, but I fucking love those games, dude. That's my franchise, and considering I couldn't even put X and Y on my 2016. No, it was my 2013. I couldn't even put it as my top game of 2013. Hurt me. Was it 2013? It might have been 2014 with Aurus, I'm thinking of. The Pokemon hasn't been like my favorite game of the year in a little while, and it's primarily just because it felt a little stagnant, but Game Freak still got it, which is hell. It's in my YouTube name, The Insane Game Freak. It's what I gotta do. It reminded me, Game Freak reminded me why it's in my fucking title. Because it's GOAT, nigga. It's GOAT. But those are my favorite games. Please leave yours in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As I said, enjoy your holidays and the time home and the time spent with family and friends and loved ones. And I will catch you guys later, because life's a game. Play to win. Peace. Fucking stupid.